Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a kind of spiritual playbook that promises these profound rewards, not through massive, life-altering commitments, but through simple, targeted actions that pretty much anyone can take. You know how it is. Our lives are just packed. We're always on the lookout for shortcuts, right? Ways to be more efficient. But what if that same life hack mindset could actually apply to our spiritual lives? What if there was a way to gain these immense spiritual benefits without having to totally blow up our busy schedules? Well, that's exactly the promise of this book, Steps Towards the King. Think of it less like some dense, heavy theological text and more like a practical playbook, just filled with clear strategies for spiritual gain. So let's see what those strategies are. The book's entire approach really hinges on one single powerful idea: smart worship. It argues that the goal isn't necessarily to do more, but to do the right things with the right intention. So the whole playbook is built on this really simple formula. It identifies a specific action you can take, let's call it the cause, and then connects it directly to a profound divine reward mentioned in the tradition, the result. It's really all about finding those high-impact spiritual actions.
Okay, so let's look at a case study from the book that really brings this idea to life. How could someone possibly earn the reward for praying through an entire night? I mean, let's be real. For most of us, with jobs, family, and just, well, life, staying up all night in prayer is simply not realistic. It's a beautiful thought, for sure, but a huge challenge in our modern world.
But this is exactly where smart worship comes in. The book highlights this prophetic saying which offers an absolutely incredible spiritual equivalent. It says, two specific, totally manageable actions carry the same weight as that seemingly impossible all-night prayer. So you see, instead of this huge, insurmountable task, the path is broken down into two concrete steps. Perform the night prayer and the dawn prayer with a group, and the tradition says you get the full reward. That right there is a perfect example of worshiping smarter.
And the book takes this same principle and applies it to other areas too. For instance, it often looks at a major historical good deed and then reveals how we can gain a similar reward today.
Now, to understand the value of the modern equivalents, you have to first grasp the weight of the original act. In the historical context of the scripture, freeing a person from bondage was an act of immense virtue, and it carried a massive spiritual reward.
Right, so obviously that specific act isn't something most of us can do today. So the book asks a really critical question: how can someone in the 21st century earn a reward of that same magnitude?
And the answers, again, drawn straight from tradition, are just fascinating. Reciting a specific phrase of remembrance 100 times is said to be equivalent. So is circling the Kaaba in Mecca and praying. And what's really striking is that even a modern act, like providing a loan to someone in need, is shown to carry that same massive reward.
The crucial point here is how the book makes all of this so accessible. It organizes these pathways visually, clearly connecting a simple action to its profound outcome. It's really designed to be a true playbook you can actually use.
But the playbook isn't just about earning rewards. It shifts to something even more profound: exploring the specific actions and qualities that can earn God's love itself.
According to the source text, being loved by God isn't just some private, internal feeling. It's an event that causes this ripple effect through the heavens and results in that person being accepted and loved by people on earth. I mean, the stakes are incredibly high.
So how does one attain this ultimate prize? Well, the book turns to the Quran and essentially builds a roadmap, highlighting the very characteristics that are explicitly described as being beloved by God. The first of these is patience. And we're not just talking about passively waiting in line. This is about steadfastness, perseverance through difficulty, and trusting in a greater plan. This quality of resilience is presented as something that directly attracts divine love. Next up are two deeply connected qualities: being repentant and striving for purity. This shows an appreciation not for perfection, because who's perfect, but for the effort, the humility to constantly turn back to God after a mistake, and that active pursuit of what is pure, both spiritually and physically. And finally, the book points to a really powerful verse. It frames following the path and example of the Prophet Muhammad as the ultimate proof of one's love for God. So in this framework, it's not just an act of devotion. It's the most direct way to receive God's love in return. So when you look at all these different pathways, gaining rewards, earning love, what's the one unifying thread that ties this entire playbook together?
Ultimately, the message is that it's not about the grand, dramatic gestures you might do once in a lifetime. Nope. It's the small, consistent acts, performed with sincerity, that carry immense spiritual weight. The intention behind the act is really what gives it its power. It all just boils down to a fundamental shift in mindset. It's about moving away from working harder and towards worshiping smarter. A strategic, intentional approach to one's spiritual life, focusing energy where it counts the most.
And that brings us to the question this playbook asks on pretty much every page. It challenges us to move from theory to practice and ask ourselves, what is one small intentional act I could bring into my life starting today?